analytics recording is just in progress, so I'll just do that again. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. Today we're going to be discussing business analytics through Excel dashboarding, right? So um, we're going to be showing us how to, create interactive visuals and interactive analysis on Excel, such that the end users will, have a very good time consuming the dashboard that you've delivered. So the dashboard is such that will provide insight uh, to whoever your audience is. So if your audience is your your team members or your line manager or executive leadership, right? You should be able to have a bespoke um, analytics report for them, right? So the essence of this class is to enable us see the leaps and bounds of what we can do with Excel dashboarding, very similar to what you already know um, for Power BI as well. For those of us who are familiar with Power BI, and if you're not familiar with Power BI, I'm sure there will be a similar class for Power BI as well. Uh, but what we're talking data, we're talking analytics, right? And the very first thing you need in any kind of analytics um, is data, right? You want to know what your data source is, where are you getting your source from? Do you depend on people to get this data that you want to use to build a dashboard? So let me share my screen first so that it doesn't seem like I'm speaking in parables yet. So okay. As soon as you can see my screen, please let me just maybe by wave of a hand. Oh, great. All right. So we have data, right? And like I said, you want to know what your data source is. You want to know where you're getting data from. So I have data already that I developed myself. So, but it is one that I've imagined we will be receiving every month, right? So in January, I'm supposed to receive data from maybe the data team or from a team in one region within my business. So let's say in my business, um, we sell electronic gadgets. So the kinds of products we sell will be things like maybe televisions, laptops, phones, Wi-Fi hubs, and the rest of them. Now I have a rep in the South who I depend on for data. So he or she sends me whatever the sales is for the month, right? I have someone else in the North who delivers the same thing as well, right? So these people, right? Imagine that they are my data source, right? And then they send me data monthly, right? And as the analyst in charge of producing those insights to the business leaders, right? My job is to collate data and deliver something very insightful to them. So that's a manual process of getting data. But then again, we have um, automated processes where there's a database within the system, and then I don't need there's no recourse to anybody. I just go into the database if I have the skill set to query a database, right? And that skill set we're referring to is SQL. So with SQL, I can go into a database and say, okay, go to this table, get me the sales for all the product every day, blah, 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 and, dump that in there. And then if I have Power Automate skills, for example, I can say, okay, I don't want to have to always go into the database to do that. I can, use Power Automate to say, okay, every time the month has ended, can you run this query for me and dump this day? So these are just the different layers, right, for what an analyst has to do, to deliver those insightful um, analytics. Now I have my data, right? And in my data, or rather in my folder, I have sales data for every month of 2024. Uh, if you see, it's just sorted by in alphabetical order, but it's from January to December. This is 12 items, so it's January to December. Um, Now there is a manual way of, okay, I have to collate this, right? I can decide to open each one, copy, and you know, come into my dashboard engine or the dashboard workbook I want to use, and then start pasting manually. And then there is the automated way of, just getting data, right? So, which is what we've done in this instance. So in this instance, I've already connected this by way of Power Query. If you've not heard of Power Query before, Power Query is Excel's um, add-on tool that helps simplify how we, you know, how we manage the data sets that we use. So where you have to do additional works like merging data, cleaning up the data, all kinds of formatting and transformation of data. Power Query helps with doing that. So this is me trying to consolidate 12 files, right, that will have similar structures. And mind you, because it was a manual process, I would have probably sent out a template to all those reps to say, okay, please always send me this data in these templates. And if whenever they deviate from the template I've sent them, then of course there's going to be a problem. I'll probably go back to them and say, oh, you've added a new column. I didn't ask you to do that. Or, oh, you deleted the column. It's very important for what we're doing, So those are also part of the roles required from a data professional, right? So uh, by way of Power Query, I can consolidate all those 12 files into one case, right? And it's a simple case of going to data, right? This is the normal Excel workbook that you all know. So it's a simple case of going to data. You go to get data, right? And then there is from file. If you scroll down here, you see from folder, right? So if I click on from folder, for example, it will point me to my file explorer, and I'm just expected to pick which folder I want. So if I just pick this and I say open, remember I've done this already, so I don't need to do it again now. I'm just showing you how I'll come about this, right? So you see all 12 files in that folder, right? So I can decide to combine, I can decide to load, I can decide to transform, but yes, we want to combine, right? We want to combine. So under combine, I can decide to combine and transform. I don't know if the screen is too small. Let me, yeah. So I can decide to combine and transform data. I can decide to combine and load. I can decide to combine and load to. So combine and load to will be used when you have a model, right? And that's when you're going into the Power Pivot axis. That's a little more advanced than this class. Although, I mean, if you want to do something advanced, like advanced dashboarding, sometimes you might require power pivots, right? But for this, for the purpose of today's show and tell, um, let's just focus on these two, right? We'll just focus on these two. So combine and transform is what takes you to a page. So I'll cancel this now. So I'll just show you where it takes us to. So clicking into this, how do I hide this? Um, so clicking into this data here, right? You can see there's something here called query. So if I click into query, I can edit my query. A new page would open and the transformation page. So if I clicked on combine and transform, it will come to the process of showing you this page, right? So the first thing we did was to get the data from that source, the sales report folder. And this is the file path, right? The next thing, so I've done a few things here, right? So I filtered hidden files, invoked. So I think these first two functions happened automatically with the combination. The one that I started doing manually was where I had to rename. No, I think this is also part of part of the automatic process. Yes, this is part of the automatic process. This is also part of exactly. So this is where the automatic process ends, right? So you don't have to do anything when you do combine and transform. It just does the first one, two, three, four, five, six steps for you, right? And it takes you here. So at this point, you can decide to start testing your data by like querying your data to see the content of the data. So where you have numbers, you want to change the data type to numbers. Where you have text, you want to change the data type to text. Where you have date, you want to change that to date as well, right? So here it shows ABC123, whereas this is number. You can decide to change that to currency, right? And you should change. Is asking me, are you sure you want to insert a step in an immediate, I don't think it will affect anything, so I'll just insert it. So that's now um, showing as an amount. I'll do that. I'll do the same for this one as well. Just change that to currency. So all I'm just doing is clicking the data type there, right? This is date, so I change that to date. I wonder why it changed before. So this is text. It is currency. This should be whole number since it's order quantity. Um, due date should be date, right? So I'm changing that to date as well. What else? I think that's it. I think that's it really. And one good way to know that your data is looking good is there's a green bar, right? There's a green bar here. So if this green bar you see just below the header, once it's full, you have an idea that that column is fine. So if you look across your data set, you can see that it's all green. So when something is wrong, it could be red, or it could be that the green bar stops somewhere here, maybe half of the column, you know, um, then you know something is wrong. Another way to actually just have a full view is to come to view, right, and check your column quality, check your column distribution, right? If you do that, it will tell you just with a glimpse that there is X% of your column that is valid. Some of them have errors, some of them are empty, right? But like I said, in this instance, it's all valid, valid 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, right? So since our data is good to go, I will just go back to home, close, and load. So all those 12, all those 12 data sets or 12 months, right, have now been combined together into this one view. Ideally, this first column doesn't come with data, but because you're combining it, it it has added that column just for you to see the source of your data. So this one will be the same thing, or yeah, it will be the same for each file, but because each file is named differently, you can see that it's giving you the name of the file that they're coming from. So this one coming from February 2024, and so on and so forth. Right. If I check my period, I can see that I have January to December, which means all 12 of them have come in, right? So we have our data. Now, the next thing you want to do is, visualize the idea you have for the dashboard you want to build. First of all, you've interacted with your data to know the kind of data you have. Okay, I have order quantity, I have unit price, I have total production costs, I have sales amount, the order date, the region, product, due date, and then period. So with what I have, I can actually calculate profits, right? Because my sales amount less my product cost, I should be able to get profit. So I can do that in the Power Query system. I can also do that in Pivot, anyone that we're comfortable with. I can also do that here, right? So we have different options to do that. I can also calculate things like maybe what now? So this is order quantity. So I can calculate cost. Okay, no. So product cost is actually cost of goods sold. Okay, so it's the same thing. All right. So like I said, the next thing you want to do is really to interact with your data, understand what you have so that you can determine the kinds of insights you want to generate for your consumers, right? So the dashboard for this one, I've also developed it, right? But what you'll be seeing is something that has been done, but I would also, as much as possible, try to, show you instances of the things I did to develop it, right? Now, there's going to be an analysis page, right? It doesn't have to look nice because it's like the engine that feeds your dashboard. At the end of the day, you can decide to hide it. It's really not important. But as much as possible, you want to be able to you know understand what you've done so that even if you're handing this job over to someone else, it's as clean as possible and it's easy to understand. But again, someone who's very conversant with Excel might not have a problem navigating it. But just so that it's easy for whoever is handling the job next time, right? It'll be good to just do a facelift just to make it look good. So pardon that this doesn't look as good as it should, but I just wanted to point that out that it would be important to do that. So thanks for the detailed. Also, there are questions going on. Pivoting in Excel also. Power pivot different from pivot. Okay, that's a theory who's explaining. Sorry for that break in transmission. Okay, so yes. So you want to have oh my God, an analysis kit, right? That or you can call it whatever. You can call it maybe backend. You can call it what now? Anything that looks like, oh, it hides all my debts, right? This is where all the dirty job is done for the dashboard to look good, right? And then in the dashboard, I will show the dashboard and then just go. So this is the dashboard I developed. I can go full screen mode, so just have one view first, right? Now you might wonder, okay, how did how have we come up with this? What have we done, to get to this point? How did we develop this? What did you do? Are you sure you've done this well? Does this look right? Right? But I can tell you for a fact that if we wanted to take our time to develop this in one class, it would take a good number of 2 to 3, 4 hours to finish this up, right? So it's not a smooth process. There's a lot that goes into it, right? But the essence of this class is just to, show you the possibility you can have with dashboarding, and where possible, I will just, run you through the important things you need to consider when trying to develop an Excel dashboard, right? So first things first, let me go back to showing my ribbons. So first things first, right? You want to create you want to create a structure for your canvas. So I will open a new sheet, right? And assume that this is me trying to develop a new dashboard, right? So this is our new dashboard. But then I have lots of grid lines. I don't like seeing grid lines because in PowerPoint I won't have grid lines, and in Excel I won't have cells as well, right? No, sorry, in Power BI I won't have cells. In Power BI I won't have cells. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of my grid line. So you can do that under page layout or view. Any of them work. So page layout, um, under grid lines here, untick that, and then you can go as far as unticking the headings as well. What it will do is it will eliminate the cell headers and the row headers. So if you do that, you just have a blank canvas that you can work with. If you want to go even further, you can eliminate this function bar, right? Because you want to call it up only when you need it. So I'm eliminating the function bar. So I just have my canvas, right? Uh, After that, I want to have a theme for my color. So you can see that I had this dashboard, but I can assure you that this isn't the color that I built this dashboard with. I've tried out different themes. Just, I kept playing with each of them. So this is the one I built it with. You go to page layout, right? And on that page layout, you see themes, you see colors, right? And then you have different array of colors that you can work with. What this does is it resets the structure of your color palette, right? So if you're if you're working if I go home now, and because I'm on this theme, right? If I click on my color palette, just if you could just take note of what the colors look like. I have some red looking color here. I have orange here, right? But if we change that color, if we change that theme color to say violet, right? The entire report will change as well. So you can see the entire report changes. If I go home to look at my color palette, I don't think I'll see red and orange there, right? So it changes the theme of your canvas, that the theme that you have available to work with. So if I pick this what's it called? Purple. If I pick purple to, like I need to use purple to do something, and I change the theme. So purple being one, two, three, four, five, five, right? If I change the theme of the layout, right? I go back to layout. I change that to the green. Uh, Now it's changing to green, so it has changed to green. If I go back to, to try seeing what I have available, the fifth one there is green, right? So it was purple before, but now green. So all the purples that I had in my report before become green automatically. That's what's happening, right? I think there's a question there. Okay, that's it there. All right, so that's what's happening. When you change the theme, it changes everything along with it, right? So now, like I said, you want to select colors that work with your theme. Maybe your business uses blue and red, or your business uses orange and gray like GTB, or they use red and white like UBAs, and whatever it is, just pick a theme that is in tune with your business colors, right? And then the next thing is to have an idea of what your layout wants to look like. So I will tell you that because I've designed quite a number of dashboards, whether it's on Power BI, on Excel, I have an idea of what the different layouts I can use and look like, right? And even while I have that idea, while job is going on, I can keep tweaking it until it's complete, really, right? But I can tell you for a fact that I believe it is good advice that you get prepared for the layout that you want to use, because if you're not experienced, you might run into, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to structure this. Okay, how do I combine this and this and this and this? So you want to really get prepared with the kinds of layouts that you want to use. So for instance, I can insert a couple of shapes. So I have under insert here, I go to shapes. This is a rounded corner rectangle, right? I can insert this guy here, right? And I'm already having a layout as it looks like this. I'm already having a layout. If I don't want it looking all this colorful, I can do a Control 1 and it takes me to the formatting, right? So I don't want it to have feel, or if I want it to have feel, I don't want that color. Maybe I want something lighter, right? Because it's going to be a background, right? So I don't want it to have borders, so no line, or even if I want line, solid line, maybe I want something not black, maybe something greenish, but also light. Anyhow, it depends on your appetite for designs, really. But like I said, it will take your time, because there's a detail to everything that you've put on that dashboard. There's a detail to it, right? Now, for efficiency, because you've developed this one and you probably like it the way it looks, you can you can copy, move around, and do all that kind of stuff. So to copy, I can hold my Control and Shift key and just move my mouse. I can hold my Control and Shift key and I move my mouse and I have another copy of that. I can move this like this, but then again, you notice that I've left some white spacing, right? Because it always makes your report look good. I can do that again, move it around. I have this. I can do another one, move it around, reshape it. Okay, let's see. That's too big. That I'm reshaping it to this. right? So I can do all of that. I can move this around as well, and then on this right board, come here. My dashboard is taking shape, isn't it? Right. So you might say, oh, you're getting worried about alignments and or whatnot. You don't have to. I can hold this one and hold this with my control key. Come to shape format. Right. Under shape format, you see a line here, and I can align top, and they'll be on the same horizon, right? So this is my dashboard taking shape. So it is now me deciding what do I need to do with all these designs I've created. So I'm saying, okay, maybe this this part of my dashboard needs to have some color, right? I can add some color here just at the background. And if I add this, it's looking like my guy is on top of something, right? So again, it's really just about your appetite for designs. I can do the same thing down here and maybe pick a less doughty green. I can do that. Again, it's all about how your kind of appetite for designs. Uh, so this is a dashboard looking ready for something to be on it, right? And you have different options. So on my dashboard, I've used card, and you wonder, okay, how did I go about designing the cards? Simply the same way. I don't know if someone has a question. I think Therese, uh, mic is on. Okay.
Yes,
So
I have a question, please.
who's that, please?
Yes, it's Bonike.
Oh, okay. Hi, hi, Bonika.
Right, good. Please, so I'm trying to get it well. The dashboard is just mental representation of our information, right? Like I'm creating all this information in the way I like, but as long as it makes sense to the reader, I can
Yes,
use any
yes,
format.
yes. As long as it makes sense to your consumer, you can use any format, right? But
Okay,
the beauty about what has been developed is that it is interactive, right? So
okay,
if I select month, say March, for example, right? I think it's slow because there's a sharing going on. But if you notice it, the numbers have changed, right? If
yeah.
you notice, if you notice this, the numbers have changed. So cost of goods sold is showing 734K. But if I remove that,
Mm,
again, it might take a while. I don't know why. I don't know why the process is slower. Now it's changed to 8.3 million for all of it,
okay,
right? But when I selected
yeah.
March, it showed some 700 and something K. So the purpose of developing a dashboard like this is such that you don't have to come back here to do anything again, right? Once you've developed this dashboard and it's
Mm,
being used, all you just have to do is get your data, refresh it.
yeah.
And then I've also simplified this by creating a refresh report code in the back end such that once let's imagine that Bonike is my sales rep in the north. Bonike sent me an email to say, oh, I have dropped the file for January 2025. And then um I hear from Idris in the south that January 2025 is also ready. Same thing for Omalara in the west, right? I have all of those
Mhm.
people. They've informed me that my data is ready and my data
Okay.
has been saved in the folder. All I just need to now come here to do is to click on refresh report, and it will do all of that Power Query combining that happened in the first page that we did. It will combine the January part. It will now also come here to refresh everything here so that January
Um,
2025 will be included here. So you won't have to come here to do this again. All you just need to
everything.
do is refresh the report whenever data is ready. And that's the beauty of the job. Does that make
It's
sense?
clearer now. It does a lot. Thank you.
Yes. So, but if you do something static, it means that it's not going to be interactive. It means it becomes a report, right? Something static will become a report, and you send that once, and it's not reusable. But when it's a dashboard like this, and you make it interactive, you ensure that nothing is hard coded, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it becomes reusable tomorrow in the future. The only time you have to ever come here is maybe when there are tweaks or your company changes their logo, for example, and it's no longer this logo. You say, oh, this is outdated. I come here and I change the logo. Or maybe there's a business rule uh, around how you calculate profits, and it has changed, right? So
Mm.
maybe before, profits used to be calculated by after you've given commission to some people, maybe commission to your salespeople, you now calculate profits. But in 2025, they say, oh, profit is now calculated before you remove the commissions to the sales. So I want to see my profit first before you remove commissions, right? Then you can come to this engine here and ensure that that new business rule has been factored into your dashboard. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. Thank you very much.
All right. Uh, so back to the one we were trying to recreate. So not like we're recreating it anyways. There's no way we can recreate that dashboard, but I'm just showing you the different streets that we could use. So for the cards, again, it was just a simple case of you have different options, to be honest. Again, coming to shapes, you can pick you can pick anyone. You can pick this rounded one. You can pick I think I use this one here. And if you hold your shift key, you'll be able to draw something seamless, right? If you don't hold shift, for example, so I'll give you an example. If you don't hold shift when you're drawing, so if I go back to insert, I come to shapes and say I want to draw a circle. If I'm drawing this circle, you can see it can become an oval, right? But if I hold my shift before dragging, it will never become that oval. So I'll do that again, insert. Where's my shapes again? Shapes, and then that's it. Now I'm holding my shape. You can see that's it. So that's it, right? So for the card, it was just a simple case of maybe I'll duplicate this one now and then turn this one around, right? And then the the one on top here, I can change the color to say it is feel. So I can change the color to something like this, right? So we have something at the back that looks like they are together, right? But they're not really together. So that's what I did there. And then I can, hold both of them and just do a group. Where is it? I can hold both of them, right click. Why is my group not showing? That's strange. This and this, right click. Okay, no idea why. Okay, sure. I don't know why I wasn't showing before. So you hold your control key to click on both of them, and then you can group them, and they become one item. So now I can duplicate this now. Ugh, what is wrong with this?
Ừ, Oxylogy nó lo sợ.
Performance is really slow. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the call. So holding my control and shift, I'm just moving things around. And there you have it. I have 4 cards already, right? Then you might wonder, okay, how about these icons that I've used? You can see the icons. They are quite, they're live. They're not they're not flat icons. They're not they're live. They're like GIFs. So there's this website I recommend. It's called Flaticons or Flat Icons. Flaticon. Yeah. If you go to flaticons.com or flaticon.com, you can see a host of different icons. All you just need to do is search. So I can search for something like profit, right? And maybe I don't want an icon, maybe I want an animated icon, which is what you see in that dashboard, right? So if I hover here, apologies everyone, performance is really lower down. Yeah. So if I hover, you can see that it's it's moving, right? Because it's animated. So it's just to pick anyone you fancy. You can click on this, you download. I'll just click on that. You click on download, you download that, then you download the GIF version, right? And that takes you to it will get downloaded in your under your download folder. So if you come to your downloads folder in your file explorer, you'll find it there, right? So I haven't downloaded that, but just showing you how that is done. And then if you want to bring them into your canvas, you just come to insert pictures. You can say place over cells, and then this device, and just go to the folder where you have it there and bring it in and resize. So let's imagine that I'm using the one in downloads. I can pick this one. I know that's Steven's leadership logo. And that's it down there, right? That's it down there. I can resize this now. I can resize this and move it just as I want, right? I can move it over here. That's it, right? So that's that for icons. Um, then for the values, right? For the values, you want to be able to link them up to your analysis. So the analysis we did, they were different pivots, right? After 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 some of the pivots have been created, um, sometimes you want to add some formulas to them to maybe derive something, and I'll show you instances of where I've added some formulas to derive some things just so that it is dynamic enough. So I go back to the dashboard now. So for this revenue value, you will see that I need to I need to call back my formula bar. So in the formula bar, you see that this revenue is linked to analysis F4. So if I go to analysis F4, this is F4, that is the revenue value. And this is a pivot, right? This is a pivot. So if I click on this now and I say pivot analyze and I say show me the field list, you see that it's a pivot, right? So it's just a pivot of it's a summary of everything in the data. So give me the sum of revenue, give me the sum of TOGS profit. Then for the average unit, what I did was change the sum of the summarizing. I changed that to sum, from sum rather to average. Others will have sum because it's sum I want to see, but for the average unit price, I changed that from summing to averaging, while this is also summing, right? So each one is a text box. if I come into the new one we're trying to develop, if I come to insert and I say text box and I draw a text box here now, with this new text box, I can come into this place here and say equal to, and I go to my analysis and say, okay, let's say it's revenue I want to bring in and do that. Oh, sorry. You have a problem if you are linking it like you're linking it directly to a pivot, right? So what you can do is to remove the pivot linkage that it comes with. So that whole get data thing is a pivot linkage. So now it's linking straight to analysis F3. I've removed the get data pivot, whatever I came with, and I'm just leaving the analysis F3, right? And if I press enter, oh, sorry, I think I picked the header and not so this is F3. So that's why revenue is showing. So I should have picked F4. So if I change that now to F4, the value will show, right? So now the value is showing. I can increase the size to how I want it. I can make it bold, right? Such that when you now use your slicers will be able to interact with it. Now, which brings us to what we call slicers, right? So slicers are what you have on this left hand here. And in any report that you're trying to develop, most times your slicers will be made from the dimensions. So in data, you have things you call facts and dimensions, right? Facts are the things that you can aggregate, you can count, you can sum, you can have a total, right? You can aggregate those things. So within my data set now, I have profit, I have cost of goods sold, I have sales, I have quantity. Those are all facts, right? But things like when did I sell them? Where did I sell them? Which product was sold, right? Those things that describe the things that we can aggregate, those are the dimensions. And if they can describe, then they can become slicers, right? So like months, for example, can describe, right? Because I want to be able to see which month I have made those sales. I want to see which month I have gotten this profit. I want to see which month I had this cost, right? Again, region again can describe. I want to see which region sold this. I want to see which region had this profit. Again, product I can use to describe which product, right? So those are the things we have made to become slicers. And it's a very easy thing to do. If you go into any of the pivots that you've developed, right? If I click on any pivot, just click on any one. You see under pivot table analyze, you see insert slicer, you see insert timeline, you see filter connections, right? So just in this space here, right? Very simple. So if you just click on insert slicer, you see all the options that you have. So the options are coming from the data set that feeds that pivot, right? You won't see an option outside that data set. It has to be the data set that feeds the pivot you've just um, pointed at. So if I pick product, for example, I can say okay. And you can pick as many as possible. You can, if once you tick them all, they will all come up together, right? As different slicers. So this is the product slicer that has just come out. I can cut this now with my Control X, take that to the prototype that I'm showing us with. Performance is really, really slow. and I paste that here. I have no idea why behaving like this, to be honest. Yeah, I've taken off that slicer. I don't know why it was just hanging everything. So let me try that again. Um, okay, trying that again. Insert slicer. So I will cut, and hopefully it doesn't give me problems again. I will paste here. Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's just very easy, right? And with this, I can click here. If this doesn't change, then it's because it's not linked to it. So that's 9.1. That means it changed. Microwave. Does that change? Yeah, okay, changes. So it's linked to it. But in some instances, you'd notice that there are no links between your slicer and the pivots that you're working with, right? And it's also simple to link them. It's a case of clicking on that slicer, click on slicer here, right? And you see report connections. And then on the left here, on the left here, you see all these clicks. They will show you if they are connected to the different pivot or different reports that you have in your engine, right? So this in this particular instance, this slicer is linked to the pivots we've used to derive this number. That's why when you make changes to it, the numbers change. You can format the slicer however you want. You can, but to do that, you do a control 1. Um, right. So you can reduce or increase the height and the width with this. What else can you do with this? You can't really do much here, to be honest. It's just about increasing the size of the slicer. But one important feature that it has is to change the number of columns. So now it's showing you one row per line, right? Or per option. But if I change the number of columns here from 1 to 2, for example, it folds into 2 columns, right? You can see that. If I change that to 3, it will change into 3 columns and 2 rows. So depending on how you want to manage space, right? Some people some people just want to see them all in one row. But I mean it just occupies a long space. So as much as possible, where you can try to, squeeze up the space it is occupying by folding them up into columns. So like the date here, I've used 3 columns. For this region, I've used 2 columns. For product, I've used 2 columns as well. You can also remove the background of the slicer. So you can see here the slicer has a white background, right? But that's because I'm using a custom made slicer style. So to create your own slicer style, right, you can right click on the one that it currently is and say duplicate, right? So once you duplicate it, what will happen is it will give you one that you can now modify. You can see that the modify option I have here is grayed out. So I cannot modify a preset style. I have to duplicate that style first and then modify it. So there's one I already modified on the left here, which is this one. So if I click on it, you see that the color, the color of the background has changed. Even the style has changed. If I click that again and go back to what it was before, you probably see the difference. So here the borders of the options looks like it's green, but the old style it's looking like this. So it was a white background, some gray or very light looking border, but the other one I fixed to use in my own dashboard, I had to eliminate the color so that the color is looking like the background of of um this shape behind it, so that it just flips nicely into it, right? There won't be conflicting background. So I'll show you how to also do that. So if I go back there now, slicer, come here, I'll right click and say duplicate, right? Now I'm duplicating it. I can call that SLC test. So for the whole slicer, what do you want to do? You can say you want to format it. I go to format. Um, Sorry about how slow it is. Trust me, it wasn't like this earlier today. So now for the fill, I've selected no color because I don't want this whole white space to have the color. Alternatively, you can select the color of what you've used here. I don't remember which one I've used. I think it is this one. Yes, it is that one. Yeah, it is this. So I've picked this now as my fill color. Then for borders, I don't want a border. So all that line that you have around it, I don't want it. So I turn that off. And then font, I'm okay with the font. I say okay. For the selected item with data. So selected item with data is this laptop. Now laptop is the selected item and it has data. So if something like laptop is selected, how do you want it to look? That's what it's asking you. So if you go to format as well, right? If you go to format, uh, if you go to format, you can change what the borders would look like, right? Yeah. So I can change the borders. I don't want the borders to look like this. I probably want to have another color, say this one, so I can select this, right? And for the fill, it already has its fill, right? So I'm okay with the fill that it has. So I say okay. And then selected item with no data. I just simply want the borders to be different. So I come to border. I don't want it to have a gray border. I want it to have this kind of border, right? And then I select this as so that it gives me an outline, a green outline. And I say, okay, that's all. And I say, come here to say, okay. So this is called SLC test. So if I click on SLC test now, you'd see that it now fits nicely within our shape. So if I move this shape here, you wouldn't even you think that that's the slicer itself that we've just designed, but the slicer is sitting on something on a shape that we've built at the back, right? So again, it's really about your appetite for wasting time because some people see this as a waste of time, but when you take your time to do something that looks good, I'm sure you get some good remarks at the end of the day from whoever is consuming it. So that's that. I've shown us how to do the cards. I've shown us how to get the what do you call the icons. I've shown you how to develop these slicers. I've shown you again, this is just a simple pivot, right? So I don't know the the skill level of the people on the call, but to create a pivot, it's a simple case of highlighting your data, right? Go to insert pivot table. I say from the table range, and I select that, which is this table range I've selected, and then it says choose where you want the pivot to be placed. I can say an existing worksheet, right? So I'll just go to analysis, which is already an existing worksheet, and I can come here to click on this place, and I say okay, right? So all I'm simply doing is playing with my data to get me a summary that I really want, right? Maybe I want to summarize my data by product. So if I click on product, it will come to the rows. So I'm seeing all the products I have and say maybe sales amount. I do all of that. I had to do some formatting on the number, right, to look like this. And that's a little. I mean, if I was to show that, it would take a while too. So this is a small pivot showing you your sales by your products, right? You can cut that, take that into your dashboard, right? But be sure that let me just cut that so that I'll explain something. Be sure that whatever, so because I've turned off headers now, can't really move that. Where is it now? Headings. So let me, yeah. So be sure that your slicer is controlling it, right? If I click on microwave now, I don't think that the numbers will change because this slicer was produced from another pivot. So you need to connect the slicer to your new pivot, right? And I've shown you how to do that already. It's a case of clicking on that slicer, going to your slicer here, and then checking the report connection. If I scroll down, I'll see a new pivot that is not clicked and it's in sheet one, right? So this is pivot table 3, sheet 1. So if I pick that now and I say, okay, I'm sure the numbers here will change. They will change now. Yeah. So I've selected just microwave, and that's why you're seeing that it's only microwave that is showing, right? But there are some instances where you deliberately don't want the slicer to control um, the pivot, right? Because you want to do some further analysis when there is no control and when there's control. So it really depends. It's not all the time that your slicer has to be connected to your pivot. So if I go back to dashboard, for example, I know that, uh, for instance, this date here, this month slicer isn't connected to this pivot because I don't want a situation where if I click July, for example, this report will hold up because it will show me only July, but I want it to always show me the month's data, right? So I've disconnected this slicer from this particular pivot. But then again, I've now added a format that just highlights me the month where it is showing, where it highlights the month that I've selected just for a simple view. So I've added that format in there so that if I select, say, in November, right, this line you see here goes to November, just to guide me, to help my view as well. So how did I do that? It had to be done in the analysis page, right? So there's a similar, if I go to analysis now, I think it is this one, yeah. So this table and that table you see, they are the same. But this one here is controlled by the slicer, while the one in the dashboard is not. Why is that? I want a situation where whatever is here is what I've selected, obviously. So I want to be able to do a formula in my conditional format to say that whatever is in that in this particular cell L what now? L4. Whatever is in cell L4 will be what is highlighted here. So that's why that um pivot is also in that sheet, right? And it's being controlled by this so that when I select a month, that L4 will become that month, right? And that L4 will now be what drives this line to move, right? So again, it's a case of going into your conditional formats, highlight the area you want to format, you go into conditional format, you go into new rule, right? And say you want to use a formula to determine which cells to format. So it's just saying is equal to L4, L4 here, right, is equal to, back to my dashboard, is equal to this guy here. And then I remove the lock on 21 so that it can go down, right? And it's saying apply rule to F21 to I21. I want to apply the rule from E21. I hope it allows me to do that. E21 to I32. So I32. And then I want to have a format where the color, the fill, so the fill is maybe something like this, maybe a border that looks like this, up and down. Say okay, and I say okay. So it says I can't apply. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the pivot. So I change that to F. Say okay. Yeah. So you can see for December it's highlighted already. If I click on say June, yeah, it has highlighted June as well. So that's just that one. For this one, it's a simple case of doing a chart, right? So I want to do a chart of my revenue and profits. I'll come to my analysis here and do a simple pivot of my revenue and profits by month, which is this, right? And I connect that to a chart. So I go to insert, I go to charts, recommended chart, and I'll see different options. So I want to use a combo, right? A combo of a bar chart and a line, yeah. So I want to use a combo of bars and line and a line. And I can click on OK, right? So here you click on OK and you're able to change the presets. So it would ordinarily come with these filters within the chart, but you don't want that, right? So you can right click on those filters and say hide all field buttons on charts. So those are field buttons. I don't want them. So I'm hiding them so that my chart can look good. I don't want grid lines. So I can click within the grid line. So you can see that I've clicked those lines now, and I can just delete, right? Now I think it looks better. I don't know. It's just my own point of view anyways. Then the bars, you can decide that, okay, they're looking too slim. You want them to come closer. If you click on the bars now and you do a Control 1, it will take you to formats that you can use to, format bars. So gap width is showing as 219. So I mean, the bigger the width, the bigger the gap between this and this, right? That's why it's slimmer. But if you reduce the width, the bars will come closer. So if I select a gap width of say 60 or let's say 40, I don't know what 40 would look like. When I say enter, let's see how close it comes. Yeah. So you see it comes really close, or maybe too close. So I can take that to 60, which was my original thought on that. Yeah. Okay, I guess this looks good. But probably again, you can change the color of this, right? Maybe this green look to, or you change that to a gradient or something, depending on really how you want it. Everything about design is a thing of choice, right? But there's always a rule of thumb, and that rule of thumb is the first thing I already told you, which is to have a color preset so that you don't go past those colors that you have available. But where you have to go past them, it will be for important things like maybe you want to have a color difference between positives and negatives and things like that. So you really want to use a green, you really want to use a red color. But other than that, it's always advisable to play with the presets that you've been given, right? And you'd find that it's easier to change the theme to whatever theme that is preferable maybe in the future. So this line here is also having a similar color to what you have up there. I can decide to change that as well, and that's the color you see here. Maybe I don't like that color. I can make that an orange. Yeah. So it pops up. It pops up better. Again, you can use a smooth line so that instead of having a sharp edge like this, it just gives you rounded, as if it's moving, it's flowing like a river. Again, if that's how you like it, it all depends, right? You can decide to have a header and a data label, right? So data labels will give you the labels showing you how much each bar contributes, or how much is on each bar. And you also want to probably bring in, I mentioned something earlier, the title. Thank you, a chart title. So if I click on chart title, it gives you this. You can also make the chart title dynamic, as I have on the dashboard here. So on the dashboard, I show you an example of a dynamic chart title I have. Probably spent more time than we planned to. So a dynamic chart title. So you see here, these buttons I have here. If I click on top 5, my chart title changes from list 5 to top 5. Yeah, so it changes to top 5 regions by revenue. And if I click on list 5, it changes to list 5 regions by revenue, right? And that's an example of a dynamic title. And it's a simple case of also creating that in your analysis, right? So you can just link that. So let me move this one here. So this is where I did all of that work. So here I have list 5 regions by revenue, right? And what it's saying is if P18 is equal to 1, this is P18. So P18 being 1 or 2 is driven by these buttons, right? If I click on top, that number changes from 2 to 1. So you can see 1 here. If I click on list, that number changes from 1 to 2, right? So what I've just done is, if this number here, because this number is linked to those two buttons, if this number is 1, then give me top 5 regions by revenue. Otherwise, you give me list 5 regions by revenue, right? Simple. And in the chart there, this is the header. If I click on that header, you can see it's now linked to that place. So I've just said is equal to P19. If I go to P19, that is what you find, P19, right? So when that number changes, it changes to list. When it changes to 1, it changes to top. All of that work has been done there. What else? So that we can call it a day. Yeah, I think that's really the bulk of the work, right? But again, I've added buttons here. If we were to have other pages, for example, right? Let's say there's going to be a time series analysis. If you click here, it will take you to a time series analysis sheet. I go back to that, and that in that time series analysis that would have been developed, there will be another button that brings you back to the dashboard. Maybe the dashboard is named differently. Data sheet takes you to data sheets. What else? Refresh report, like I said, already does the easy work of refreshing all the reports, and just with a click of a button, your report is ready to be sent. Uh, Again, these ones are dynamic as well, with some of them linked, some of the slicers linked to them and some not linked. So for example, I don't imagine that products will be linked to them because they are talking about products. So, but if I click on say region, I expect those numbers to change. So yeah, it changes, right? Everything changes on the screen. So yeah, I guess that's really it in a nutshell, right? Again, like Ediri said at the start of the class, the the training course available, the paid training course, which start on the 12th of July. And I imagine that those that will be attending the courses will have a full picture of how to develop this. They would also have the project that will be called, and certificates will be given to them at the end of the courses. I believe they will become gurus at doing similar stuff as well. But I know that with what you've seen today, I know that you've probably learned so much as well, and I imagine that you'd be going to your personal spaces to try a thing or two, and beckon on us whenever you need further help or whenever you run into any hitch. So if you have any questions, or if you think that the paid training is going to be a good or a good benefit to you, then you can reach out to Ediri, and she'll give you a lowdown of everything you need to know about the paid training. Like she said earlier, um, there'll be a course on Excel, there'll be a course on Power BI, on Python, on SQL as well, and yeah, all other kinds of goodies you can think of around working on optimizing your LinkedIn and giving you an optimized CV that can help you with your job searches. All of that will be part of the training, as Ediri mentioned. So that's me for tonight. If you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions? Looks like either I'm not hearing the questions or everyone just understands it and it's small